Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the GTHL's Breakout podcast. I'm Steph Karate. I do communications for the GTHL. I'm so excited to be joined by Kirk Brooks, founder of SKILLZ Hockey and one of the co-founders of Seaside Hockey, the GTHL's newest member. Thanks so much for joining us, Kirk.
Thank you for having me.
So for those who don't know, Seaside Hockey was welcomed to the GTHL as a member officially in July of 2021, which was very exciting. Seaside Hockey is based out of North Scarborough and is operating a U7 and under program, and the top priority for the program is making hockey available to more Canadians, providing opportunities for racialized players to participate in the sport. So Kirk, I know how passionate you are about this program, so I'll let you dive into it a bit more. Let's start from the beginning though. How did the idea of Seaside first come to be?
Well, obviously during COVID, we were all in lockdown, and all hell broke loose on the racial front when it came to hockey.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things were happening, and I felt and we felt that the GTHL was getting beat up unfairly based on their numbers and on their stats. And because I know Scott, I'm like, what can we do? How can we jump in? How can we try to, give the GTHL a win, but also basically help hockey overall. So, that's how Seaside was born.
And there's obviously work that goes on behind the scenes with developing something like this and a program as extensive as this too. How long was Seaside in the works before officially launching?
Well, what happened was, we started off really fast. We had about 12 people involved, helping us organize and do everything. Once we got our application in, we were just waiting and waiting. We really couldn't really do anything because we didn't know what the approval would look like. So we were kind of we lost some people. Some people, left the program, but we just kept going. And then, we started hearing, rumors that, Seaside. I'm like, oh, we started to get excited, right? Then when the word finally came down, we were like, oh no, it's happened. What are we gonna do? We had such a short window. We didn't have any ice, even though we had already started preliminary talks with the city. We didn't have any equipment or anything like that. But, the GTHL stepped up and said, don't worry, we got some stuff, some equipment. So we were like, okay. So we just, it was July. We got some flyers done and away we went. We just went at it and tried to get a bunch of kids.
Well, you talked about the panic of, oh no, it's happening, but we're excited. What was the first thing that everyone kind of looked at each other and said, we've got to get this done before we get rolling?
Well, everybody was like, okay, Kirk, we don't have any players. I was like, because everybody was like, one of the things I guaranteed everybody, I said, hey, look, man, I've been promoting hockey for 30 years next year. And it's like, nobody promotes hockey, gets hockey players better than I do. And I'm not just trying to brag on that, especially new hockey players, especially hockey players from diverse backgrounds. I've been doing it so long. I was like, don't worry. You guys try to take care of all the technical stuff. I'll make sure we have players. So really the first panic was players, and the second players was ice. Because, ice is given out based on allotment. And, we were just used to picking up the phone and saying, hey, can we rent 10 hours of ice? But, that all changed. So now we were in a more structured program. So it took a little bit of time for us to get used to it and, really get our legs under us. For the first couple of weeks, we weren't getting no people. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, okay. Then boom, it just took off.
Well, and let's jump back to you for a second. You noted your experience. You've been in and around hockey, I think, for over 25 years it is, right?
Yeah, so next year, I don't mean to interrupt, sorry about that. Next year will be my 30th anniversary of my first program that I started. Will be next September.
And that's amazing. Let's hear a little bit about the work you've done in hockey and for the racialized players to get into the game.
Well, when my oldest son Nathaniel was born, I always knew that he was, I'm like, I was born here. I'm born in, I'm Nova Scotian background. We all played hockey, so I'm like, okay, man, when I lived in the West End of Toronto, we all played hockey back in the 70s. All the black guys played hockey. When I moved to Scarborough, the guys looked at me like I was like something was wrong with me. Hockey, what's that? So I started playing football. Then once my son was born, I was like, the first thing I did for him, first Christmas was buy him hockey equipment. Here you go, you're going to play hockey. And then I thought, man, there's nobody that looks like him in the game. What can I do to actually give him a chance? So myself and Daryl Levy's father, Chaos, got together on the football one day and said, we're going to, let's start a black hockey school. And, that's what we did. And we got kind of lucky because the hockey community back in that, that time's in 1992, 93, 94, those players, a lot of those players, Kevin Weeks, Trevor Daly, Joel Ward, I can continue to go on, are all playing in the National Hockey League. So when I PK, his brothers, so we just, God's will, we were just lucky when we started. We had a lot of guys come out of the program, and out of that, everybody's, we got guys on TV, guys coaching, and one of the things that we were able to be successful earlier on with Seaside is we have so much help. Like, we have guys that want to help. We have other coaches from other organizations want to come out and help. It's been, the help that we're getting has been tremendous. A lot of the kids that are teaching first-time players used to play for me. So it's like kind of gone full circle for me.
Well, and they say hockey community and that it takes a village, right? So it's not far off when you get involved in the game, you realize all the people that just want to help grow the game and help get as many kids involved as you can. So on that, what would you say was the biggest challenge of getting the idea of Seaside to really become a true reality?
Well, the biggest argument was, challenge was, getting it past my son, Nathaniel, and Ace Stu. Those guys gave me a hard time all the way through, and as a matter of fact, they're still giving me a hard time, but, we're just pushing through, right? That was the biggest challenge on convincing everybody that it could work.
So I'm going to push you a little bit further. And what was the main concern? What were they worried about?
It was, operation. How are we going to operate? How are we going to develop kids? How are we going to bring them along? What are we going to teach them? How are we going to be different than all the other organizations? Like, what is it that we're going to offer that's different? One of the concerns were, yeah, sure, we're black, we're proud to be black, but we're hockey people. So, we just were battling over that. We're hockey people. It's okay. Like, we love the game. Nobody loves the game more than I do. But there's a lot of guys that like hockey, guys. I don't want to take it away from you, but there's a lot of people that love it. But that's all I've been doing. That's all I do. And I just had to convince them that, guys, it's going to be okay. It may, we may make some mistakes. Some people may not be happy, but we're doing this for the good of the game overall, not just for our organization. We've learned a lot of things in starting Seaside that we could pass on to other organizations, so we want to be able to take the knowledge and everything that we've done and be able to do that.
Well, and you started in Scarborough, so that's where the program's run. And Scarborough's obviously gotten a lot of love in the hockey community. I mean, you mentioned a few names, but Wayne Simmons with the Leafs and Michael Bunting immediately come to mind, with Scarborough getting put on the radar a little bit more. What's it like running this kind of program and getting so many new faces in the game in Scarborough, in that community?
So, one of the things that's happened with Seaside is like kids are flocking to us, from all over the place. What we're finding is the kids that are based in Scarborough is the demographics have changed so much, even in the last 10 years. So, what we've done is we've focused a lot of our attention on, not only the Black community, but what we've done is people think that this program is strictly for diversity. What we're focusing on is any player from any country, white, black, blue, yellow, blue, or green, that wants to play hockey, and you don't have any money, you can come play for Seaside. We'll look after you. We'll do our best to look after you. We'll support you. Eventually, if you want to go play A or AA and you need financial support, we'll be there for you. If you want to know about school, if you want to know about anything, you can pick up the phone and call any of us in the middle of the night. And it's not just for diversity, it's for everybody. And everybody always asks us, Kirk, is the program just for Black kids? No. Come out to Seaside and see. Our program is like just like just like Canada. Like it's, multiculturalism at its best. It's a melting pot, what we've always talked about. That's what we have going on at Seaside.
And that's amazing. And I want to go back just quickly on the financial aspect, because that's a huge undertaking to help these kids. You're helping them play, you're helping them get, their gear. How does that function? How does that work?
Well, having great partners, the GTHL has been a great partner for us. Andy in your office has, helped us out a lot and given us some leads. Jumpstart jumped in and helped us out. I have to say, big shout out to Hockey Canada Assist Fund. You know, a lot of players in our program, you know, got taken care of by Hockey Canada. You know, they qualified, and that's a big, 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 big help to us. You know, I'm just, you know, emphasizing to everybody, take advantage of the Hockey Assist program for anybody. It doesn't matter, you know, black, you know, like I said, anybody who wants to play. It's been a great program, and we thank them for that. You know, all of the companies that have jumped in, you know, we have a sponsor player program. We've had a bunch of companies jump in. You know, we've had friends, you know, when we have to buy all this equipment, we're like, oh my God, we don't have enough money. Like we've had guys putting it on their credit card. You know what I mean? People doing whatever we had to do to get it done. And it's just been, you know, it's just a lot of people have jumped in to help us. A lot of people. I have to thank a lot of people. We're blessed, really, we are.
Well, and again, we keep going back to the hockey community, but I know through the GTHL's partnerships, very much the hockey community, we know what it's all about. Seaside Hockey received, I think it was over 150 sets of equipment. What was it like giving that gear out to the kids? Like, I just remember getting my first stuff, and you're so excited and you feel like a real hockey player. What was it like getting the kids suited up?
We posted a video about our fit day, and you know, we went into fit day not knowing what to do. We've never done it before. So we were like, we had our meeting. We're like, guys, we're just going to roll with it. You know, whatever happens, happens, you know, kept coming back and forth to the GTHL office, getting the equipment from there. You know, we found a bunch of equipment, you know, little boxes for kids at Treasure Hunt. Thank you, Pat, at Treasure Hunt for those. We got, you know, all that equipment. And then, you know, we found 17 sets here, 16 sets of like the internal stuff. And then what started happening was we had to come back to the GTHL and say, hey, we have a lot of kids that are older that want to play. We can't turn them back. Like, we would be hypocrites if we turn around and say, you know, you're 9 years old, you can't participate in our program. So, you know, the GTHL was kind enough to say, okay, we're going to take these players. We you know, they're family members or people that we found or through word of mouth, and now we've just been outfitting them. Some of the kids are huge. So we got, you know, some of the kids are huge. I mean, we thought the Prodigy helmets or Men Small would do it, but we got a lot of kids, you know, and, you know, it's kind of funny because, you know, when you're wearing your braids or you have thick hair or any of that type of stuff, you know, a regular helmet doesn't fit. You have to wear a bigger helmet. So we're actually going right. So we're going through the bigger helmets at a faster pace. And I was just saying to the guys today on the phone this morning that we have a very good problem because we have more players. Like, we had 10 kids come to the rink on the weekend and say, can I play? And, you know, the guys are getting mad at me. They're like, Kirk, you got to start saying no, right? I'm like, no, I can't. You know, we're just going to keep taking kids as long as we can. And, but the one thing that I will say is I have to give out, you know, blessings to all of the hockey organizations in Toronto and the world. You know, I have a newfound respect, you know, for those people that volunteer, run hockey organizations. Man, it's a hard job. So I apologize to all of the hockey officials that I gave a hard time to over the years because, man, now I know for real what y'all are going through, man. You know, bless you, man. Thank you.
Well, there's always two sides to the coin, right? You never know what the other side looks like.
You know what? I know now.
Well, yeah. And you know, I'm curious because as families are getting involved and the kids are getting suited up, was there a learning aspect to what the heck is this piece of equipment? What do I do with it? Did you have to also teach families kind of how to get started?
Yeah, so what we did is, and we, you know, we didn't have bags, and we're still don't have enough bags. So when we had sort of like an assembly line, but we had a bunch of people show up at the arena. Some of them we called, and some of them just showed up and said, hey, can I help? So we had 20 to 25 people. So once you went from your helmet to your pants, you got fitted, your skates, then somebody was there to take you in the dressing room. So there were a lot of people in the dressing rooms actually teaching the families, okay, this is how you do it, this is how you put it on, this is how you tie the skates, you know, and then, you know, and that's how we've been doing it. So every time we get a new player, one of our volunteers or one of our junior instructors will go into the dressing room and teach them how to put it on. You know, we had somebody cutting sticks. You know, half the kids that got sticks the first weekend, 8 weeks later, are all using opposite hands because when they first came out, it was such a mess. Boxes were flying everywhere, elbow pads were flying everywhere. It was just, you know, I called it, it was one of the craziest days of my life, but it was so sweet because it worked out okay. So, you know, it was like stuff was flying everywhere. So, you know, but we do, and, you know, and every week now we're teaching parents how to properly tie skates. Oh, okay, you forgot your socks, no problem. You're wearing track pants, here's the old school style, you know what I mean? Pull the track pants over the shin pads, here's a roll of tape, you know, stuff like that. We're starting to get parents to get their kids, you know, mouth guards because the kids are falling because they can't skate and they're hitting. We're saying, hey, look, man, we don't want nobody biting their tongue. Let's start getting mouthpieces for the kids. So it's an ongoing process. And it's a learning curve for us every week because there's something new happening. We just now started scrimmaging. So that's, you know, something new. We haven't really set up a team structure yet because our kids are still not at the point to where they can actually play real games. But we've now got them scrimmaging. Kids 8 weeks ago that were lying on the ice like this are now skating out there and they're scrimmaging. And they're getting mad. Coach, they won't share the puck, man. You know what? You're 4 years old. Don't worry. They'll share the puck.
But that's great because that competitive edge is coming out. That's awesome.
Yes.
And just before this call, I know we chatted quickly that Hockey Canada actually just tweeted out some of your pictures. And the kids are wearing Hockey Canada jerseys. That's pretty awesome. Like, you're new to the game, you're jumping in the sport, you're learning, and you're donning the maple leaf. How is it to give kids those jerseys?
Well, you know, thank you, Brian. So, you know, when we came to the opening night of the GTHL celebrations, you know, and thanks again for inviting us to be part of it. You know, Brian sort of whispered that he had a bunch of these jerseys. And I was like, oh, you do? Beep, beep, beep. I was like, okay, because, you know, we needed jerseys. So I'm like, all right, cool. How many you got? So we did, you know, we got a bunch of jerseys. We gave them out to the kids, and the kids were proud to be wearing those Hockey Canada jerseys. We gave a kid a jersey that was too big, he said, no. Even though we have kids, you know, they look like dresses. They just love those jerseys. So yeah, it was very exciting giving those out.
Well, and let's go to the Canada-wide here. I think you noted that you were from out east.
Yes.
So let's talk about your team names. Some very interesting Eastern style names. So
yes.
The Truro Victorias, the Charlottetown West End Rangers, the Dartmouth Jubilees, and the Hammond Plains Mossbacks. So how did these names come to be?
So one of the things was myself again. Once again, the two guys that give me a hard time, you know, were on the phone with me, and we were talking about names. You know, name. What are we going to call it? We were going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, you know, my son said, "Hey, well, you know, the Africville Seaside." And I went, ding, 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 ding. We're like, oh yeah, you know, because in our other business, we pay homage to the Colored Hockey League. So we thought, you know what, this is something that we can actually do that'll be different. So, you know, we'll pay tribute to these teams. We'll keep their names alive, and we'll make some really cool jerseys, you know, and that we can have. And then instead of being, you know, we love the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs and the Bruins and all those traditional colors, but we thought, let's do something that's really cool, you know. So, we have sort of like, you know, we don't have high, you know, end logos, but we have logos that we could think of, you know, that came out of those times, because a lot of those teams in the Colored Hockey League, you know, named their teams after the British monarchy. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we follow the same league. So we've got our logos released, and, you know, we're really excited to when we get the jerseys and socks done. You know, once we figure out what the color palette is, and I think we'll have some of the coolest jerseys in hockey.
Well, and something you can be proud of, just like the Hockey Canada jersey, right?
Yes. Yeah. And another thing is, you know, the Africville Seaside sides, which is really what our organization is named after. One of the beautiful things that's happening with the Black Ice documentary is all of the guys in the photo have now been identified. So we now have permission to actually be able to use that actual picture for Seaside to promote it. And they've got it really, that's all color now, and it's got all the guys' names on it. So it's really cool to see, you know, a team from the 1900s, you know, all the, you know, identified. And for me, it was really exciting because my father's a carvery, and to know that, you know, Ma, Pop's Carvery and like 4 or 5 of the guys on that team had the same last name is like really, really exciting stuff.
No, of course. And, you know, we talk about the beginning of Seaside. Like, you started, you launched, you're part of the league, but it's December now. We're 4 months in. How's player registration? How are the kids doing?
So, you know, the biggest thing for us is because we have new hockey parents. Listen, it's hard enough getting regular, you know, hockey parents to register in the new, you know, the new system. So for us, getting used to the new system is we're just continuing to push players through. I think that, you know, we're close to 80 that are in the system. We probably have another 30 or 40 that we're just trying to, hey guys, you got to get registered. You got to get registered. You got to get registered, and just pushing them through the system. But we haven't stopped working. We're still taking calls. We're still getting registrations through our website. We're still following up. We're doing a final call for players again. And then the new year, we'll continue to register players as long as the GTHL will allow us, basically.
Pushing the boundaries, right? Anything
right, yeah. We want to find out, okay, guys, what's the limit? When do we want to stop? We know at some point in time, we may have to, but we're going to keep pushing until that time, such a time as, when we have to stop taking players. And, we're already making plans for next season and, trying to keep these kids active during the summertime, so, we've got a pretty good community there. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, and I'm tired, and it's been a lot of work.
Well,
but one of the good things is,
through.
One of the good things is that my son and those guys don't let me on the ice anymore, right?
Why is that?
Because they're like, oh, Dad, you can't even cross over no more. Because I had double hip surgery like 10 years ago, and even my doctor doesn't want me on the ice. But I'm so happy because now at Seaside, I actually get to get out on the ice and lead some drills and yell at some kids, right, and pretend that I can cross over both ways.
You're proving them wrong in so many different ways, right?
Right.
Well,
right.
Besides the crossovers, are you seeing any challenges on the ice halfway through?
No, the only challenges that we're facing really is the amount of ice that we have. We need more ice, but again, what's the other challenges? Really, it's just trying to get more ice. We always have lots of instructors, lots of volunteers of instructors, our parents. Okay, so I'll say this, okay, because I'm sure the wider community will appreciate this, but we have to get our players used to hockey time. And I'm allowed to say this without offending anybody, but a lot of our parents are still on West Indian time. You know what I mean? So which means when we tell them the ice is at 2:00, they come at 2:00, right? So now we're trying to get them to say, no, you have to be there half an hour before, or come to the arena with your kids half dressed. So our biggest challenge is getting our parents used to being in, because some of them have never played organized sports before in their life. So they don't know that you can't show up 2 minutes before the game and expect to be ready. But so what I've had to do is, if our ice time is now at 2:15, I shouldn't say this publicly, but now we tell them it starts at 2:00. So now by the time 2:15 comes, we have our full group, we can start our time, but that has really been our biggest challenge. And, if they and, turning on the heat for the parents, because a lot of these parents, from the Caribbean are not used to that cold ice rinks.
Hey, I would say both of those are hockey problems.
Yeah,
you gotta get them the 30 minutes early time frame, and everyone wants a heater in the rink. So
that's right, definitely.
I think that means that Seaside's even more of a real hockey program with those as your challenges.
Absolutely, and one of the things I tell everybody, hey guys, listen, we're new. And one of the things is we have to make it comfortable. And let's get them comfortable. The kids are happy. The parents are happy. They're referring their friends and family to us. So we'll just continue to push them in the right direction so that, by the time we finish our handbook, our organizational handbook that we can hand to parents, it'll give them, hey, recommendations, how often your skates should be sharpened, what kind of laces that you should do, why you tape your stick, why you wear a mouthpiece. We're actually working on that right now so that we're going to be able to hand each parent, here you go, here's a manual, anything that you make that we've, questions that have been asked, situations that have come up, we're actually logging all of that. So at the end of the season, each parent's going to go here, and then they'll be able to learn from that.
Well, and we take for granted the amount of things that go on, not just in hockey, but really starting any new sport. The amount of things that if you're a newcomer in and you haven't really been introduced to the sport, there's so many questions that you have. Like, for example, you mentioned like a mouth guard. Why am I wearing this? And even when we mentioned earlier talking about the equipment, like, where are my shin pads going here? Which way do they go on? There's so many questions, right? So that's honestly amazing and be such a helpful tool to parents. We noticed that you're halfway through the first season. You're looking ahead to next season. What are you most excited about?
Yeah, getting to team play. Like, in our younger age groups, like we have a lot of players, but we have we have a lot of Timbit sized players too, a lot of them. And we have a bunch of kids that we have that are on skates that are not on the ice yet. We just have them walking around the arena. So what we're really looking for is getting our players up to the point to where they can actually start playing real games. Because I think we have a lot of players that have, like I said, they were lying on the ice 8 weeks ago and now they're flying around. So that's the part we want to get to, but we don't want to do that too quickly. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to manage those expectations with our players. We do have some kids in our organization. We've had great talks with the Scarborough Ice Riders. Thank you guys. And, we've got some older kids, that are part of our organization that we're just trying to teach them how to skate. But we've said to, the other organization, hey, we got a bunch of kids that are old enough. You guys have these age groups. We don't. Right now, once we can get them to the point to where they can move around, then, you guys, here you go. We need a place for them to play, right? So those are the type of things that we're working on, just collaborations and partnerships. And, we have parents that want to play games right now. Hey, coach, when are we going to the tournaments? Players, hey, coach, when are we going to play against other teams? They're asking for it. So now that's why we didn't even want to start scrimmaging until January, but they've developed so quickly. And thank you to the 800 instructors that we have, but they've developed so quickly that we're now scrimmaging. And the kids are celebrating their scoring goals. And, we're nervous because they're all going into the corner and they can't stop. We're like, oh no, they're like bodies flying everywhere, but that's what we're looking forward to, is actually being able to send out an email in, September and say that you're U9 and you're playing for the Rangers. Here's your team name, here's your coach, here's your practice time, here you go. Because really right now, as we're working off of one master list, everybody's just one group, and we divide them up every week depending on, because kids are moving at a faster pace than some other kids. So that's what we're looking forward to, is real gameplay.
Well, let's take a step back. You mentioned a very big number of instructors. How did that number come to be, and how did so many instructors get involved?
So I've been involved in hockey for, like I said, 30 years. So I have lots of friends. I've coached for a lot of years. Through SKILLZ Hockey, I've had thousands of kids come there of all different racial backgrounds. I've had guys that I played against, football in high school. I've had, principals that used to get mad at me. We've had, police officers. We've had, you name it, say, hey, can we volunteer? And we're like, absolutely, you can volunteer. Because we're not at the point to where we're actually doing games. So the volunteerism that we have is our strength. Mm-hmm. But the volunteers that I'm getting are all hockey guys. Like all the kids that are 17 and 18 and 19, are 16, 17 played with my son. Some of the other guys that are in their 30s played with my older son. We have one of the things that we have, I want to say, is we have probably 20, 25 little girls on the ice, but we have 5 female instructors. They either played with my daughter or they played with another guy, We've had a mom that we didn't know, that could teach figure skating. She doesn't want me to say her name, so I won't say her name, but her son plays for the Don Mills Flyers. And when those players come out to volunteer, because they've been in my programs, all of a sudden she's been on the ice for the last 8 weeks leading, figure skating drills. So it's just been a community effort. And like I said, I have to thank everybody. We would not have been able to do this as quickly as we have done without all of the help that we have. And as I said, we're getting phone calls every single day. Hey, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help?
And that's fantastic. And it takes you one step closer to, what the big picture end goal is for Seaside Hockey.
Yeah, and it helps that, Nathaniel's doing, my son's doing pretty well. He's making a name for himself, all of the guys that we have in Seaside, are good guys. They're involved in hockey. So we've like I said, everybody's jumped in. Some guys, and I'm talking to you, you made promises that you're going to help, and we haven't seen you yet. So we're still waiting.
Well, let's jump back to Nathaniel real quick. So Nathaniel Brooks is Kirk Brooks' son. He's coaching in the GTHL with the Don Mills Flyers. And ahead of the season, he actually got a really cool opportunity with the Arizona Coyotes. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Well, that's exciting. The Arizona Coyotes opportunity came for him. He went down. He did a good job. He was really nervous about it. And I just said, Nathaniel, you're a hockey guy. You know your stuff. When you get a chance to go to dinner with the GM of the Arizona, just make sure you let them know, just talk to them, man. They're going to recognize right away your ability, to think the game, which is really, really important to go to the next level. his experience that he's had with Coach Duco at Ryerson has actually helped prepare him for that. So, we're really excited. And it's not over. It's actually going to be like a little mini docu series. The other night they went to the Ryerson game and they were filming some more stuff. So it's going to come out next year. I'm really, really excited to see the finished product. And he's made a lot of good contacts, and hopefully one day he gets an opportunity to ply his trade at the top level.
And we're hoping for him too. Back to Seaside, I want to just ask, what is next? What is the next big thing that you guys are pulling for?
Well, always as hockey organizations, especially during these times, and because 80% of our players need financial support, really we're going to just continue to focus on our fundraising and our sponsorships, and just continue to raise money to be able to take on as many kids as possible. And the next step is to keep recruiting players, try to hit we have goals set in mind. We want to try to hit those goals and really surpass them. And then what we want to try to do is take the formula that we've actually found and pass it on to the rest of hockey. Hey guys, we found a secret. Here you go. We found this through doing Seaside. What we want to try to do is use Seaside as sort of like an experimental vehicle for all of hockey. Hey, we built this. These are our challenges. This is how we found players. This is where they are. This is how you talk to them. This is what they're saying to us. This is what our next step is just tabulating all that information so that we're going to be able to formulate a report that we can say, here, hockey, here's what we found. But I want to say one thing is, part of what our concern is at Seaside is that, we want to not only really focus on the diversity part of the game, but we want to also help find the answers to how we can keep kids that are in the game already playing. How do we do that, hockey? How do we come up with a plan to actually, keep kids in the game? But, there's been such a big focus on diversity and inclusion. I think that we've gone away from the fact that there's not just kids from diverse backgrounds that want to play this game. There's kids from all backgrounds that want to play this game. We got to find a way to get them all into the game from every community: white, blue, black, Jane and Finch, Newfoundland, Moncton, wherever they are, Yellowknife. We have to figure out how we can get everybody back and keep them playing this game. That's really what our focus is about.
Well, and absolutely, I think after what the whole world has gone through with the COVID and the pandemic, and hockey having the hiatus that it had, it's getting harder and harder to get those kids back in the game. So with Seaside and efforts like that, we're only on the way up. So lastly, for our listeners, how would someone interested get more information on Seaside Hockey?
You can visit our website, seasidehockey.ca. You can email us at info@seasidehockey.ca. Most importantly, my daughter's in charge of our social media channels. You can reach out to her by direct message. We're on LinkedIn. We have flyers, and if you ever go to a West Indian shop to buy some patties, our flyers are there. We're everywhere. You just reach out to us, and we'll be glad to pass on some information.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kirk. You're always such a fun interview and fun to chat with. To our listeners, thanks for joining our second episode of the GTHL Breakout podcast. Hang in for more to come on the great and interesting off-ice stories in our league.